What is the latest update about Biden's student loan forgiveness, and will it ever be implemented? What are the truths and the updates on landmark Supreme Court hearing? Many students rely on student loans for poverty or don't want to rely solely on their parents. How does it work? A student loan is money borrowed from the government or a private lender to pay for college. Future repayment of the loan is required, along with interest charges. The money can typically be used for tuition, board, books, or other fees. Scholarships and grants are not the same as student loans. Loans must always be repaid. On the other hand, grants and scholarships are not repaid. In addition, work-study programs differ from student loans, in which students are compensated to work on campus. When he ran for president, Joe Biden pledged to forgive a percentage of student loan debt. His scheme made its debut in August. Since then, it has come under fire. It now goes before the Supreme Court, where it might be overturned if it is determined that Biden exceeded his jurisdiction. Supreme Court justices questioned whether his government has the jurisdiction to cancel federal student debts broadly, and President Joe Biden's plan to forgive student loans is in jeopardy. Today's video provides the information you need to know about Biden's student loan forgiveness from the landmark Supreme Court. Here are the 7 things you need to know about student loan forgiveness. Number 1. Those with incomes under $125,000 are eligible for the loan. According to the plan Biden unveiled in August last year, individuals or households making less than $125,000 or earning less than $250,000 would have their $10,000 in federal student loan debt forgiven. For a total of $20,000 in debt forgiveness, those who often come from lower-income families would receive an additional $10,000. Under the concept, federal student debts from undergraduate and graduate programs, including graduate PLS loans, may be erased. Borrowers would be eligible if federal student loans were dispersed before July 1. If you paid off your loans as part of the plan during the epidemic, you can ask for a refund and apply for forgiveness. Even for those who sought student loan forgiveness before the courts rejected it, the loan relief under Biden's plan is on hold until the court issues are resolved. Biden's debt forgiveness is only available to borrowers with federal student loans, not private ones if the justices approve the plan. Number 2. The majority on the court appeared doubtful of the legality of Biden's student loan forgiveness plan. A majority of 5 Supreme Court justices expressed varied degrees of doubt about whether Biden's student loan forgiveness program was a valid exercise of executive authority. Under the HEROES Act of 2003, the Biden administration approved the initiative. According to the Biden administration, there need to be significant changes made to federal student debt discharge eligibility to ensure that borrowers are not left in a worse situation than before the COVID-19 outbreak and its massive statewide economic impact. However, the conservative majority of the Supreme Court, led by Chief Justice John Roberts, asserted that this was an overreach, and that Congress never intended the HEROES Act to serve as the foundation for widespread student loan forgiveness. The legal quirk was the only thing that gave Biden's scheme any chance. The chances of the court concluding that the states and individuals opposing Biden's plan had the legal capacity to suit were modest following the oral arguments. We will only be able to predict how it will rule once the court's verdict is made public. Number 3. Student loan cancellation would cost the federal government about $400 billion. Ultimately, the price would be factored into the formula for calculating the government deficit. According to the most recent projections from the Congressional Budget Office, Biden's plan to eliminate student debt would cost the federal government $400 billion over the following 30 years. The office issued a warning that its projections could be clearer, since it is difficult to determine how much borrowers would have paid in the future without Biden's move. According to Biden, other steps would be taken to lower the government deficit to offset those expenditures. He cited a measure passed in August that is expected to raise $740 billion over 10 years through greater taxes on big businesses, levies on firms that buy back their shares, and savings to the government from lower prescription prices. Number 4. A backup option if student loan forgiveness is struck down. Borrower supporters have urged the Biden administration to relaunch the program under a different legal basis if the Supreme Court rules in favor of the challengers. Another federal law is known as the Higher Education Act, HEA, which oversees the majority of the federal student aid program. It grants the Secretary of Education extensive discretion to compromise, waive, or release any right, title, claim, lion, or demand related to federal student loans. Although never on such a large scale, this clause has been used to forgive federal student loan debt. Throughout the arguments, the HEA provision was frequently brought up by the challengers, the Solicitor General, and several Supreme Court justices. The defendants in the second case, involving the two borrowers of student loans, suggested that the Biden administration should rely on the HEA as a more suitable legal basis for enacting widespread student loan forgiveness. But the Education Department may need to go through a drawn-out regulatory procedure to effect widespread student debt relief under the HEA, which may postpone relief for up to 2 years. Suppose Biden runs for re-election in 2024 and is defeated by a Republican. In that case, the succeeding GOP administration may decide to halt all debt relief efforts. Additionally, any relief provided under the HEA may be the target of later judicial challenges based on the same justifications as those raised against the HEROES Act, namely that the administration's reading of the statutory language is overly expansive and goes beyond what Congress intended. Number 5. Biden's plan to cancel student loans may not proceed. The plan to forgive student loans under Biden may not proceed at all. Other loan forgiveness programs would continue, including those for teachers, nonprofit employees, and victims of for-profit college fraud. If the administration loses the Supreme Court cases, it has yet to reveal its backup strategy. White House spokeswoman Olivia Dalton told reporters aboard Air Force One that the administration is concentrating on Plan A because it is confident in its ability to implement the program. Number 6. If the court supports student loan forgiveness, it might be on standing. Even if most of the Supreme Court doubts the fundamental validity of the HEROES Act student loan forgiveness scheme, the Biden administration may succeed on the standing issue. A party must demonstrate that it will suffer a concrete, cognizable injury sufficiently relevant to the contested law or policy to have standing to file a lawsuit in federal court. Too hazy or speculative of an injury claim wouldn't be sufficient. In the first challenge, a group of GOP-led states, led by Nebraska and Missouri, argued that Biden's plan to reduce student loan debt would have a negative effect on state revenue. Because of this, borrowers with commercial FFELP loans would be enticed to consolidate their loans into the government's direct lending program. The challenges concentrated on MOHELA, a Missouri-based student loan servicer, and FFELP guarantor provider. In the second challenge, two student loan borrowers who a group represented with a conservative slant claimed that they had been unfairly denied relief. One borrower is qualified for a $10,000 student loan forgiveness, but not a $20,000 one, and the other is not qualified at all. The main claim is that the borrowers experienced procedural harm due to the emergency regulations issued by the Biden administration under the HEROES Act, which prevented the borrowers from taking part in a public comment period, which is typically required for most other new regulations or programs. Number 7. Other student loan debt relief under HEROES Act may be acceptable. The administration has implemented other initiatives using emergency powers granted by the HEROES Act, in addition to Biden's one-time student loan forgiveness program and the ongoing student loan freeze. The limited PSLF waiver, which broadens assistance for borrowers on track for public service loan forgiveness, and the IDR account adjustment, which quickens millions of borrowers' progress towards student debt forgiveness, were also developed under the Biden administration. Moreover, the Borrower Defense to Repayment and Total and Permanent Disability (TPD) discharge program regulations have been loosened by the government. The HEROES Act of 2003 appeared to permit changing current federal student loan forgiveness programs, according to the challengers and a few of the conservative Supreme Court justices. Because of its extensive breadth, high expense, and controversy, Vice President Biden's comprehensive student loan forgiveness effort has drawn the ire of Chief Justice Roberts, Justice Alito, and some other individuals. These are the latest updates about student loan forgiveness, and when it comes to whether Biden can fulfill his campaign promise back in 2020 to forgive student loan debt, the Supreme Court will have the final decision. What do you think about this topic? Do you agree with me too? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.